In today's video, I'm sharing with you the process of how I made over 50 meals to cover the whole month as well as 2 months and 3 months for some of the meals. And I'm sharing this video because I am doing full meals for the second time ever, because usually I do a meal prep, but I do partial meal prep. But this time I am working with full meals because the last time I did it, it worked so well, and I thought, let me share this process as well. To shorten the video, for the breakfast, I'm not showing the whole process, but rather I am going to link in the description the recipes and the videos of how I make those particular recipes for my breakfast, so that you don't have to see the process in this video. But if you want to make, for example, bread, I will link in the description a video of how I make bread, and of course the others. I also need to add that some of the dishes that will accompany some of these main meals I'm not doing in this particular meal prep, but I am doing a mini meal prep every week on Sunday afternoon or Monday afternoon, where I do some of the meals such as ugali, such as rice, that you don't have to do as a meal prep now. And also the reason I'm doing that is because I may not have a lot of freezer space to do everything, but at least you'll get most of the meals that I have meal prepped fully, and I'm doing this on a budget as well. I also need to say, when you're doing a meal prep, of course it's always advisable to have help, but I had a number of odds in this particular video, so I did a longer meal prep that took me about 3 days if I add up the hours that I used, because my help had to leave, as well as the fact that our daughter got sick at some point and we had to rush her to hospital and come back. And so I took longer, while some of the meals also, as I waited to purchase more Ziploc bags, I ended up just doing a meal every day until I got my Ziplocs, and then I got into the main meal prep. But I think it's something you can take about 3 days if you're alone, like I was, but if you have help, you will take a shorter time. I also should say, before we get into the meal prep, that at the end of the video, I'm sharing 8 tips that will be very helpful for you as you think about meal prepping, just practical things that you could forget that I hope will be helpful for you, so you could watch up to the end, and I hope you will be blessed by those points that I share. As it's always our custom on this channel, we will pray and trust the Lord to grant us a fruitful time together. We pray, Father, that you be with me, be with my viewer. Grant that this process will be a blessing for them as well as for me. And I pray that when they try out, it will also be fruitful for them as we seek to save on time, to save on resources, to glorify you with our lives and with our hospitality. So be with me and my viewer as well. In Jesus' name, amen. Before a major timely meal prep, I like to empty my freezer so that I can not only clean it, but also do an inventory of the meals that I already have, so that I know how to meal prep. And you can see I have a few meals from our last meal prepping, and so I know what to cook even as I continue. You can be certain I did lots of boiling, and I don't have to show you that because it's basically boiling my cereals. And I began frying Githeri, which is a mixture of maize, green maize, and beans. So once I had boiled that, I now proceeded to stew it. I stewed it very simply, because when meal prepping, I like to keep my recipes very simple, with onion, as you saw, added in some tomatoes. I stirred it and added in some spices, some paprika, curry powder, beef masala. I almost always use the same kind of spices, garam masala, some roiko, and also some tomato paste. So I'm just going to stir this some more, cover, and allow the tomatoes to stew, break down a little more, then I'll add in the rest of the githeri, then we'll be done. So I will not repeat that process as we continue, but I will use this basic recipe to fry most of the cereals to keep my meal prepping very easy. So I put in the githeri. As you can see, it's a lot of githeri that we might eat at least 4 times. So I'm going to transfer it back onto this pan that I used to boil it so that it can be enough. Just cover it, bring it to a boil so that it can cook very well, and then our githeri basically is ready after this. So I packed it into those containers because I hadn't gotten my Ziploc bags yet, and we have about those are how many? 7 containers. That means we have 3.5 meals of githeri, which is basically 4 because I will usually just stretch so that it's enough. And now we began again the process of working on the next meal, which is Matumbo. Matumbo came out of the celebrations we were doing over the Christmas or festive season, and so I was able to stew it also the same way, and then it was ready. By the way, this, because a lot of these meals we have already started cooking them at the publishing of this video, they were tasty. This matumbo with ugali and some vegetables, and so those are the meals that I have, about 3 meals. We had thoroughly washed the matumbo, cut them up into sizable pieces, boiled until it was soft, and simply stewed it. Now I sat down to work on those onions, garlic, tomatoes, carrots. I basically put carrots in everything because I think carrot is healthy, and where I live, where we love carrots. So this is just some of those I have boiled. But this afternoon, it was a Friday or Saturday, I was able to do a lot of boiling of the lentils, of western dengu, beans, black-eyed peas, and some more beans, so that I can make now beans just for stew, not now as githeri. So I am now working on 3 meals at the same time. As you can see, like I said, I use that basic recipe, but when we come to warming those meals, I may now get creative to try and just add another flavor to them. So we are working on those 3 meals. This is the lentils, the western dengu, together with the black-eyed peas. So as you can see, I am working with my onion, garlic, some ginger where I can, because when I did this, I had run out of a lot of my ginger, the carrots, and so as you can see, I have added in my black-eyed peas. These are about 3 kilograms of that. We have just come to love this stew. That's why I'm making a little more of it. And then we will have also our lentils, as well as our western dengu or special dengu. So we will allow each of these to come to a boil. I am using very little liquid to make it easier to store, so that when we are warming, at the time we need the meals is when we will add in some water and just ensure that we have good stew. So this is also another tip you could use. You don't have to put a lot of liquid when you are meal prepping. The lentils is 1 kilogram. The western dengu is also 1 kilogram. The western dengu is slightly less because I have taken some of it in order to add to my samosa filling, just to strengthen it and to stretch it further, because we are working with these meals on a budget. That's why you can see this western dengu is less, but you can see all these meals are looking very delightful. So I will give them some time to just cook so that everything blends in well together and our meals will be ready. By the way, if you're new here, my name is Clara. I share hospitality content as well as recipes that are very simple to do with ingredients that are most likely available where you are to enhance your hospitality. So that's the western dengu I set aside so that we can add it to our filling. So here we go now, working on the beans that I had also boiled. Again, this time just to have bean stew, because we also enjoy bean stew a lot. Actually, I had also bought 4 kilograms of meat in order to grind half of that into minced meat, but I think the person I sent The butchery person didn't give them very good meat, so my mincer just refused to mince that meat. So I had to cut up part of it into small pieces. But right now I'm boiling it in the pressure cooker because, like I told you, it's very hard meat. But thankfully with the pressure cooker I was able to boil a bit of it. I was able to cut a bit of it into small pieces so that we can use it for our samosas and our pizza meals. So there goes our beans. We'll give them a little longer time again so that everything can blend together, and then the beans will basically be ready. By the way, at the shooting of this, it's evening, and I just wanted to show you a bit. Even with less stew, you can see I took some of the beans for supper and I just added in, the one had already stewed, you saw, added in some water, and you can see how delightful it looks. You only need to add some liquid, add some greens like I did, that is the peppers and dania, and we had it with that leftover jollof rice. So the meat is basically ready, so in the morning I will set out to work on this to stew it. So this is the next morning. I love to pack my things the next day because usually they have compacted together, they are not runny, and so they can easily pack. So I'm packing all these cereals that I cooked last night. As you can see, that was beans, the black-eyed peas, the western dengu, the lentils or kamande, as well as dried peas that I happened not to show, I suppose because that meal is not complete until I buy some more green maize, boil it and add it so that it can be used for making more meals. So interestingly, again, because I started meal prepping late now that we had to take our daughter to hospital and back, I'm grateful I still was able to meal prep and finish most of what I had desired to meal prep. So you can see by now I had gotten my Ziploc bags that I had ordered. I prefer working with Ziploc bags because they occupy less space in the freezer. If I was using containers, definitely I wouldn't be able to meal prep all these meals that I have done. So working with Ziploc bags will be very helpful.
And then the special lentils, beans, and the black-eyed peas. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There we go. So I'll add some beef in this mix as well as coconut milk to stretch it. This one I may add perhaps courgette or just soup and some few vegetables like peppers as well as these ones, or you can work with them as they are, and there you go.
This is one of the reasons you need help. Cutting up this, the onions, the garlic, the ginger, the tomatoes, the carrots, because this took me about an hour plus. So if you had help, this would be wonderful. So I lightly roasted the 3 chicken that I was working on. We usually have 1 chicken per month. Because of our budget. So that's why I am doing those chickens so that they can cater for at least 3 months. Of course, if the Lord provides us with chicken, because sometimes I will buy, especially for the channel, wonderful, but at least I am meal prepping for what we need for this season. So I will begin by frying my onion, again using my usual method to work on those 3 chicken that I've already lightly fried, cut up into small pieces, washed, and then we will cook them. Again, you saw on that other pan, I was working on the meat that I cut up into tiny pieces to use for our pizza and our samosa. But because it turned out not so well, I know I will need to stretch my budget and buy just 1 kilogram of minced meat so that it can help with, especially the pizza, because the samosa, I have to work on it with that meat because really the samosas is a lot of work, so I may not wait until I buy that kg, but thankfully at the shooting of this video I had already bought it and it's now ready for us to use to strengthen our pizza or to stretch our pizzas. Now that I work on 2 large pizzas, one for supper and another one for lunch the next day. So like you saw, I'm using the usual basic recipe with some spices, except that in the chicken I will not put any carrots. But in other things I will put some carrots. So I will fry my chicken, as you will see, but because it's free range, well, that's the meat that I'm working on. The one I cut up in pieces, it has some bones, but I will pick them out. So this chicken, once I fry it so that the spices and that mixture just blends it well with the chicken, and the water I have added in, the little water has dried out, I will transfer this chicken to my pressure cooker, add in some little water and allow it to cook in the pressure cooker, because this is free range chicken and so it's very hard. But once it's ready, then it will be ready for us to store. So again, I've started on the other meat that is kind of bony. I think our meat was really not good quality, but we will work with it. So again, because it's already boiled, I am using the shorter route of adding the onion and the garlic and the ginger on top rather than frying with a little salad oil. I did the same thing to the other meat I'd cut up in small pieces and kept stirring every now and then until it was ready for us to add the tomato. And then I proceeded to work on chapatis. These are going to be about 30 something chapatis. So I just worked on the dough. I make my dough very soft and then allowed it to rest as I worked on these other recipes. I'm working on pizza sauce. Again, if you don't know how I make my pizza sauce, I will share one of my pizza recipes in the description. But basically, I work with onion that I've fried until it's almost getting to a golden color, and the garlic. I add in a lot of tomatoes because that's for 4 pizzas for the month, and then I fry it until it's ready. That's the meat that I have been working on. You can see it's almost ready with the tomato and the carrot. And then I'm adding in some spices, that's tomato paste, and then stir and allow it to cook with not a lot of liquid to ease the storage, but when we need to warm it, I will add in enough soup. We are people who loves, soup. So that's our pizza sauce ready. Yeah, so I will just cover it, allow it to cool, and store it tomorrow, because it's easier to store it when you've cooled it. It's not as runny. So as you know, chapati making is quite hectic because you're on your feet and you need to roll and can take long. So I had to train myself to use 3 pans so that if the time was triple, I reduce it significantly and work on a lot of chapatis. Maybe you can also train yourself that. It would be very helpful. So I made those 30 something chapatis out of, I think, 5 to 6 or 7 cups of water. Again, this is not chapati that will fit us for the whole month, because as I've shared elsewhere, maybe on this channel or the other one, I like chapatis fresh, so that's why those ones I've meal prepped are for the week. But on Sunday, when I do a mini meal prep every week, I will be working on chapatis again, just a few for the week and for that day. So this is chicken that I have taken some of it to eat for supper with some of the chapatis, because this is now supper time as I have been meal prepping. So you can see the chicken, I only needed to add in some water and it's good to go because it's really blended in well with the spices and ready to go. This is morning. Before I slept last night, I worked on this samosa dough and allowed it overnight to rest. I'd covered it with foil paper and it rested really well. And now I was able to work on it this morning to make my samosa pockets. Making samosas is quite a hassle. I think it took me 2 hours or over. This is also one of the reasons you need help. We were traveling these days, so my daughters couldn't come in to help me. They needed to prepare and pack. So I worked on this perhaps for 2 hours. I don't know, but it took me quite a while to ensure I have the samosa pockets ready and the samosa pockets filled and sealed, so that all we will do when we need them for breakfast is get them out of the freezer the previous night and then deep fry them the next morning, and we will be ready with our samosas. So quite a tedious process. I've not gotten it quite. I'm not sure, unless the experts. Thankfully, I don't share my recipes because I am an expert. I just share what I know, hoping that it will be helpful for you on your own journey of hospitality. So I'm hopeful that one of these days I will share this process of how I make samosas, but I will link in the description one of the videos where I have done this process. But in that video, I didn't make them very thin. I made them a little thick, but if you want them very thin, I hope I can share this recipe of what I have learned when it comes to making samosa, very thin samosa pockets. So I need to say also that, as I mentioned earlier, the meat, like you saw, was not sufficient, and I didn't have the time to wait to buy that minced meat. So when I bought it, I just used it for pizza, but I strengthened this with the western dengu, as you saw, some peas, the peas that I made for the mokimo, as well as just adding spring onion and garlic and dania. I was good to go, having enough filling for my samosas. I actually added in at the end after the meat was ready and fried it in, and then we were good to go. So that's why we had enough filling to take care of these over 60 samosa pieces. So this process produced about 3 meals of samosas, and as you would have it, we actually fried one of the meals to eat before we left, because anyway, after making samosa, who would want to eat something else? As you know, samosas are very delightful. Yeah, but always feel free to add in some more meat if you don't want to stretch it with anything else, and just have your meat samosas, because as you can imagine, they are tastier really than having to fill it in with other things. But I talked to my family and they enjoyed the samosas a lot, so I'm hopeful we will enjoy them this month. Those containers are the meat that I will use for my pizzas together with the sauce. So the meat on one side, the sauce on the other. And I'm packing up the chapatis, the stews. The meat stew, I packed it into 3 meals. That is 3 Ziploc bags, and the chicken into 2. Now that we ate part of it for supper. And we will have part of what we left over for supper during this week or the next one. And I also need to add, as you saw, the pizza meat is very little, so that's why I will need to strengthen it with some more minced meat now that I make 2 large pizzas to cover for 2 meals. That is 1 for supper and 1 for lunch. So those were the last of the suppers. I didn't show you the piece. I will need to show you, but I'm going to boil some maize and add it to that piece so that we can use it for our mokimo. But I will show that in a separate video where I'm doing a mini meal prep after this of what we eat in a week. So like I said, I will not show the process of the breakfasts, but you can see I did 3 banana cakes, 2 vanilla cakes, the cakes are big enough because they are 1 kg cakes to cater for a meal each. So those are 5 meals of cakes. The tea scones that I made, these are going to form 2 meals, and you can see how crunchy they look. I baked them in the oven, but you can also bake without an oven. And then these are the bread scones. Again, these are going to cater for at least 4 meals or more because they are those 4 pans. And the mandazis, again, because we ate some of them, I worked with just 1 Ziploc bag, so it's going to cater for 1. And then we have the breads. These are 16 pieces of bread, so 1 bread per meal, but of course if we have guests we can use more than this, so that means at least 2 pieces of bread every week for breakfast or for sandwiches if I don't buy store-bought bread for sandwiches. So again, just stored in my Ziploc bags everything that I have just shared, so that we have those that will take care of our breakfasts. And I also wrapped some of the cakes in foil paper. As you can see, other cakes are in that container on the far left that you can see. Also, together with the nduma and the sweet potato that somehow I forgot to capture, and of course that's the piece, but I'm going to add in some boiled maize that I will buy, and that will complete what we need for our mokimo that I didn't want to do as a meal prep, but I will be working on Sunday evening when I do the meal prep for the week. In case you're interested in seeing how I hope to creatively work with these meals in order to make them interesting, please look out for our next meal prepping week, where I am showing you the actual meals that we eat every evening and lunchtime, because mostly I do meals that should also cover lunch hour. So in case you're interested in that, look out for our next meal prepping video where I intend to do that and just show you how you can be creative in some of these meals that may look very simple and plain when you're meal prepping, but you can make them very interesting but in a very short time, so that you have your meals ready on time. I hope you enjoyed that process as I shared my meal prepping and the 71 meals that I did during this meal prep to the glory of God. And as I promised, I want to share very fast the 8 tips that can be helpful for you as you plan to do a meal prep yourself. And the first thing I will say, like you can see on this channel, is pray. Every time I meal prep, I love to pray. There's even a time when I would come in with my shopping from the market, I lay it down, lay my hands over the items and just thank God for them and trust that they will be a blessing to us. I think I haven't done that a number of times, and I hope I am going to go back to that. But pray, I love to pray when I begin meal prepping, because God just helps you. There could be even little accidents that the Lord can protect you from as you meal prep. Pray. And then the second thing, please work with your menu. Working with your menu will help you to work within your budget. I have a menu in my kitchen. I think I will scroll it a little, you can see, so that it just guides my meal prepping, so that I don't find myself going way out of my budget. You saw the meat affected my budget a little. I had to add 1 kilogram of minced meat, but most of the time when you work with a budget, it helps you to work within your means. And then the third one is, please first do an inventory. You saw me do an inventory of what I already have, because that will help you, especially when you do your inventory before you even shop. It helps you to know what to shop. It helps you know what you already have, and you end up saving a lot on resources, because usually with meal preps you will still have something left over from the previous meal preps. Somehow it just happens. Like personally, my inventory showed I had some green maize left that I had boiled some time back. I had some pork that was left. I had different things, some fish, some omena in the freezer that I know will supplement our meal prepping a lot. So that's something you would want to do. Gives me opportunity to clean my freezer, gives me opportunity to be organized so that I know where everything is. And then the next one is, please label the items when you place them in your freezer. If you have a smaller freezer, it can be easier. I trusted God for a bigger freezer by faith for a number of years, and He provided, and it's allowed me to do this meal prep because of that. And of course, having Ziploc bags also makes it easier to handle a lot of food. So I would say also label your food. I made a mistake of not labeling, and because I'm used to knowing green grams are on this side of the freezer, these are on this side of the freezer, but with a full meal prep, I realized I had to look very closely to know what it is, because now the foods were looking different than when you just do a partial meal prep, boil for example in place in the freezer. But with a full meal prep, you may need to label with just simple stickers that will help you to know where everything else is and what is actually in your container or in your Ziploc bag. The next one is, please keep the cooking process very simple. I would say try to be creative with a number of meals, because what I like to do is just ensure that I am leaving room also for creativity, you know, with meals where you haven't really assigned, like I think it's Saturday or Sunday on my menu, I'm forgetting which day, where you can be creative with meals. But when it comes to the actual meal prepping, you can actually get very exhausted if you try out different ways. You saw how I kept my process of doing stews almost the same, so that I can try to get creative after that. Or a meal where I want to be creative, I can choose not to stew it, so that I work with it differently. So just try and keep the process simple. If it's baking, just keep it simple so that you can do a lot more and also not get tired. And then the other tip is, always plan with at least 1 or 2 people extra from your normal, family. If you're a family of 4, like personally, what I did, I worked with 6. Sometimes it could even be more, can cover 8 probably, but that gives you room so that if you want to practice hospitality and someone visits you, you don't always feel like, wow, I don't have enough food. But of course, keep in mind the fact that you can always keep your carrots somewhere, you can keep your potatoes somewhere, you can keep your spaghetti somewhere to ensure that you can use it to stretch your meals. As you saw, my meal prepping was delayed because I had to get more Ziploc bags, so ensure you have your storage containers ready. If you can work with Ziploc bags that are okay with freezing, I think it would help. If you could have some extra foil paper, I think it could help, especially if you run out of your Ziploc bags. But ensure you have that ready, because if you don't have that ready and you have the food with you, it will be very difficult to store that food. And if you have big containers, you'll not be able to handle as much food as you would want to in the freezer. And the final thing I would say, as much as possible, if you can and if you can afford, get help. I'm telling you, the meal prepping process will be reduced almost by half, the time that you use. Maybe you can even engage people for just that time so that they can help you with the prepping, and then you finish maybe in a day. Just start at 6 in the morning and finish maybe at 10 and you'll be done, rather than doing it yourself, because my help had to leave. Like I told you in this particular one, I did most of the things alone and it was quite hectic, but I am enjoying the fruit of that 3 or so days work, because we are having relaxed evenings, we are having just having to meal prep a little on Sunday afternoon or Monday afternoon if our Sundays are occupied, and so that makes our meals and the process of making them very simple. So I pray you would try this and keep these tips in mind, because I hope they will be helpful for you. Long video today, but I hope it was a blessing. Look out for our next one that I'm going to show you the process of how I do a mini prep on Sunday afternoon to cater for the week, so that we have a relaxed week during the week. I'm hoping to post that video next. Check out this video right here that I hope will be a blessing to you as well, where I did breakfast. Check in the description below for the links. I have posted on a number of videos that I didn't show the processes, like I said. And until the next video, May God bless you. Thank you for watching. Bye.